Welcome to the Motherfucking Scandal Podcast, featuring your lover girls, Olivia and Ayla.
Welcome to episode 2. This is Dirty Little Secrets. And I feel like the secrets could have been dirtier with everything we know about Scandal, but for a second episode, I could see it.
Yeah, we couldn't come out the gate swinging. I think that part of the charm of the first season, I feel like, is the dialogue is super sharp. And not only that, but also the structure of how she jumps from scene to scene is also incredibly sharp. Everything has a purpose. Everything kind of comes full circle. And it's just all really neatly tied together, which I think is really fun.
Mm-hmm.
But that means that you're not going to be getting some of the insane twists and turns that we get later on in the series.
True.
So it's like
I just feel like the first episode was just like pow. And this episode was like, like tickle, tickle. I was like, hold on. But I get it. Like, you can't, punch us in the face every single time. So I get it.
Yeah, and we had to deal with the fallout of what that first episode meant too, right? Because we know that Cyrus didn't realize that there was a whole situation going on between Olivia and Fitz. And so he needed to have that moment of reckoning of what that meant. And he also needed to sort out what that meant in relation to what's going on with Amanda Tanner. So just to go backwards a little bit. So we have 4 plot lines going on in this episode, right? So we have the DC Madam.
Mm-hmm.
Connected to the DC Madam is the Keating nomination for Supreme Court. And then the other 2 plot lines are just Amanda Tanner. That news is starting to simmer a little bit more. And then, of course, we have the Ollets of it all.
Right.
And so I feel like when you have these episodes that are a little bit more ripped from the headlines, it means a lot more in the context of the headlines themselves breaking. So when this would have come out, the world was already in a tizzy about a madam situation and a bunch of politicians banging these chicks. And it just felt topical, and it kind of brought everything to life a little bit more. And to bring that now, it just feels a little bit more dated, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because in the moment it made sense.
Right. And that's unavoidable. So, again, if this is your first time watching it, it's still hella interesting, right? It's still
absolutely
good TV, but because, not only have we lived through it, but we've seen however many times, it does seem tame compared to what we come to know. But I will say, though, that with the plot lines that you listed, I think the relationships are like a whole plot line, right?
Because absolutely.
Liv picking up on whatever Abby's feeling for Steven, right?
Yeah.
Us getting more information about Huck, right? And what he's willing to do. Because it's not like they just come out and tell you. You kind of just gather, oh, he's dangerous, right?
Absolutely.
Cyrus, I think that whatever Cyrus had processed, I still don't think he had gotten anywhere, or where he got wasn't accurate until he spoke with Fitz at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
And I still think he didn't quite understand, but he was just like, whatever, we're on the same side, so whatever you say, right, I have to accept. I can't argue with you. We're standing in the Oval Office on the presidential seal.
Yeah.
I'm going to take your word for it.
Absolutely. And that's very much so a Cyrus thing. He doesn't really start to stand his ground much until later on. And you see the effect that has on their dynamic and their relationship as well.
Yeah.
Going back to Abby, just every time she opens her mouth, I just get frustrated. there was nothing really, there's nothing appealing about her at this point in time. Because even Olivia says, like, in this job, I'm not here to judge and neither should you, right? So she's getting told, like, you're just out of line, you're out of pocket. And she just continues being like a judgy McJudgerson. And it doesn't make any sense. Like, yeah, he banged a prostitute. So what? It's not like it's someone who is, you know, underage. It's not someone who's being manipulated into a specific type of situation. It's not coercion, right? It's just a woman who's working for a living and a man who paid her for her services. How is that a bad thing?
It's not, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think for Abby, she's looking at it like, there's women like me, right, who never get men like him. Right? But
interesting. Yeah.
He'll go out and pay for. So it's kind of one of those things like, well, what's wrong with me? Right? What about me? Like when is it gonna be my turn? You know, it's just like, damn. You know, and a lot of women I feel like struggle with how men work. We tend to look at them through our lens of how we do things. And it's like, they literally just want to do this thing. However it is they do it, right? Whether they're kinky or not kinky, they just want to do it. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about feelings. They don't want to have into a thing. They just want to do it, get in and get out. And people like him who are in stressful jobs, especially, right?
Yeah.
That's their way of releasing, right? You get that release.
Absolutely. And I actually, that ties into a conversation I had with a friend a few weeks ago. We were talking about how there's a difference between how women write gay romance and how men write gay romance. And the gay romance that women write is very much so written for the female gaze. It's not really intended for men because he's just like, men don't think that way, men don't act that way, and that's not how most relationships function. And I was just kind of, I was stuck. I was like, wow, that's interesting because I'd never really considered it before. And I was just like, I need to like really sit down and have a conversation about this with him because there's clearly something that is being missed. And I wonder if that could like really change the way that we perceive it, or is it that we romanticize it because it's just easier for us because we don't like the way that men view romance?
Well, I just think it's simply that we don't understand it.
Yeah.
You know, if you're writing from a place of imagination and not from a place of experience, you, once again, you in your mind think that a man and a man are relating to each other like a man would relate to a woman. Which, think about it, that doesn't make sense because they're two men. So why would two men relate to each other, right? But I think that's also what makes it interesting, right? When you do read a story from men, especially when it's told well. Like there's some where like, is this just for shock value or are you for real right now? Right. And then there's some where it is refreshing. It's like it's refreshing to read, you know, from a different aspect where everything is not so emotionally entangled. Oh, welcome to in case you guys didn't know, we're also authors.
And that's why we have so much fun, because we're seeing this as viewers, we're seeing this as authors, we're seeing this as people who are looking at like intimacy and how that can be portrayed in like a line of dialogue or just a look and a gaze that's heated, like very much so.
Like when they're standing at the window and their fingers, you know, he reaches out his finger. Oh.
And that is something I actually noted, right? Because I was thinking, as soon as it happened, I was like, oh my God, it's the Victorian, like old school yearning. And I think that's what makes all it so special, right? Because the more we see of Fitz, the more we're just like, oh my God, he's kind of like a spoiled, petulant child.
Oh my God. Fitz is like a child.
That's so, why are we like this? Every time.
When he was talking to Cyrus, I was just like, Cyrus looked at him literally like how you look at a kid where you're like, all right, I'm not gonna. Okay, kid, you got it.
And she has the audacity to say, "You're not going to say anything."
What you want me to say? You don't
What do you
want.
want me to say?
You don't care what I gotta say.
God, Fitz, bro, I can't with him. Okay, but yeah.
You know how I always talk about Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood? That's literally Fitz.
Mm.
Why not? Why can't it? Like, he's one of those kids where you're like, oh, I can't come over. But why? You know, ask your mom again. Like, he's just like delusional, bad, like down bad, real bad.
And it's just so frustrating because we recognize that, the world is not a fair place, but for people who look like him, people who were raised to have the stature that he has, he thinks that everything revolves around him and everybody around him caters to him. And that's part of the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because every single person in his orbit is doing everything they can to keep Fitz happy. What is it? Well, it's in a later episode, but when Fitz is like off doing some kind of like trade conference, and it was all roads lead back to Fitz. I actually think that's an episode title, but all roads lead back to Fitz, because that's literally like that's his plot arc.
Mm-hmm.
Everything leads right back to him. And he doesn't even recognize he's the center of attention. And anytime something happens that is outside of the realm of what he considers for himself, he's so selfish that it always has to come right back to him.
Right. And I mean, to be fair, right? Because when people make him aware of it, he's genuinely like, no, like, that's not what I meant. That's not what I was trying to do. And it's just like, wow, to be that groomed, right? He's been groomed for this. He's been groomed. He's
He
been
absolutely
groomed.
has.
And everybody that is around him has been put into position, has been vetted. Like, there's nothing organic about his life. So here we have
Nothing.
the first organic relationship that he's ever curated. And he's like, I wonder if that has a lot to do with how much he fell in love with her, right? Because it's the first thing that he chose to do on his.
Mm-hmm.
And that's his. That relationship is his. And he's just like, no, I'm like going to hold on to this no matter what. This is mine. And I just feel like that's that baby with the rattle. So compounded with the fact that he's used to everything revolving, now she becomes part of this orbit, but she's not like everything else, right? Because these things can all be interchangeable. She can't.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Because at the end of the day, she has her own thoughts. She has her own mind, and she's decided to remove herself from this situation because she knows that she deserves better than whatever it is that he thinks he can offer her. And that bothers him to no end, because this was a thing that he thought he had for himself, and she's just denying it. And he's just like, but why? But why? But why? And she keeps giving him all these reasons. And he's like, well, that doesn't matter. And this doesn't matter. And it's just like, it's easy for you to say that because you're not the one sacrificing. Right. And we talked about this last episode too. Is like that sacrifice, like you can't keep continuing to expect everybody to bend over backwards for you and then be surprised when things start to break.
Well, I think the difference with her is that she was never groomed to be that for anyone. So they're literally opposites, right? They're literally like not supposed to be together, but they're, impossibly drawn to each other. And so I feel like that makes it even worse, because it's like she is saying no. He probably lays awake at night just thinking about her saying no to him, and it turns him on, because it's like, wow, no one says no to him.
Yep.
It's a whole new world. Everything that they're doing is the first time for him, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to be like intoxicating. There's no way.
Like, Absolutely. And I think that she really enjoys the chase.
And
right?
The power.
And the power. Oh my God, the power. And the way that it goes to her head later on in the series is nuts. But I think, the pure like you said, how do I describe this? The way that she is able to just kind of like hold this man in her hand, and that moment when she realizes that, there's literally nothing like it. It just, it gives me like goosebumps, because she realizes I can do whatever I want with him and he'll just do it. And that is dangerous, because it's not the I was born into this, like, people do what I say. Oh no, I'm taking charge and people don't like it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. It's intentional, and it's just kind of like, this is what I want. I'm holding this power in my hand and it feels fucking magnificent, right? And it's just so good.
Because Cyrus just knew that he was going to be the number 2.
Sure
which
did.
would mean he's really the number 1. He thought that his opinion and his voice was going to be what was guiding everything. And the minute he realized, it's not even that he's having an affair. It's not even the fact that he's in love with someone, but the fact that it's Olivia.
Yeah.
And everything is good as long as Cyrus and Olivia are on the same page.
Yep,
right?
Exactly.
And we talked about this last episode. That's why they had to have their little weekly meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was really what it was about. They have to stay on the same page to maintain the status quo. And it's
absolutely
so evident of how like minuscule Fitz's power actually was.
So small. And I think, later on in the series, when he finds out all the things that happen in Defiant, that's why he's so upset, because he realized that everything around him was manufactured and nothing was real. And he's just like, oh, so it could have been anybody. It didn't have to be me. And he has this whole like existential crisis. And I think that that's why he just like loses his mind a little bit there for a second. But, back to what you were saying a second ago about Cyrus and Olivia being on the same page. Billy mentions it. And then Billy goes behind his back and is just like, well, I'm going to work with her anyways, because you're not giving me any information to tell me to not work with her.
Right.
And it's so interesting, because everything is just so tightly knit, and everybody has these secrets that they're just kind of like hopping and skipping around. And it's just like every now and again, they just kind of like butt against each other, but not to the point where they explode. Going back to the episode title of Dirty Little Secrets, everything just kind of like moves around in the same orbit of itself. And then you have those moments where some of those secrets kind of eclipse each other, which is really fascinating to watch.
Yeah, like the judge's wife being the prostitute and him not even being like, you didn't know? How did you not know? Oh my God. Like, I would think that in a position like that, the background check would be a little bit more extensive, right?
Absolutely. And I think what's fascinating to me too is that she was still working. And if it hadn't been for that job, he wouldn't be where he is. And I think that that in and of itself is probably the main like takeaway that I have for this episode. And we've kind of talked about this before in, other like lives and stuff. But one of my like most vivid memories as a kid was my neighbor coming home and realizing that the husband that she had put through medical school and paid all the bills for had 2 kids with some other bitch and had left. Took everything out the house. The house was empty. Took the dogs, everything, right? And so to me, it's just like you can literally sacrifice everything for a person, whether it's a man, woman, whatever. And at the end of it, they will do whatever the fuck they want to do, and they don't give a damn about your feelings. And I think that that's what's crazy about that reaction that he had, because he was pissed that she had ruined his life, but he wouldn't have had that life had she not done what she'd done. And so it's so fascinating to me that
Come on. Like you make it seem like it's so logical. Like could you imagine? Stop. Because it's not that simple. Like she could have told him. She chose not to. And now it's not just about finding out that, there's this lie, but it's just like, damn, like, could I have done this on my own? Could I have not? You've taken it away. Now it doesn't exist. Now I can't even get it, right? He doesn't know at that time that Olivia's going to fix it. So he thinks it's done. So really, you didn't help me because you actually are the reason why it's not going to happen, right? So you could say, oh, I sacrificed for you. But had we discussed it, I might have told you, listen, no, I don't want you to do this. I'll find another way. Because that's really how it's supposed to go. Like, you're in a relationship with a man. You're not supposed to be sacrificing yourself. You're not supposed to be martyring yourself. You're not supposed to be hooking to, like, this ain't like stripping my way through college, right? You're married and hooking your way through the relationship.
Well, was she still hooking once they got married? Because she said she hadn't slept with him until their wedding night. So I'm curious if she was still hooking after that. Because in my interpretation, it could just be, my own biases that I watched it with. She was hooking until they got married and then she stopped.
I don't, she didn't give a delineating line of when she stopped.
Because theoretically,
girl. Wah, wah, wah.
If you're not sleeping together,
Mm-hmm.
If there's no ring on it, can I still sleep with other people? I don't know.
I'm saving myself for marriage. And everybody in the fucking DC, VA, tri-state area is getting it.
I'm deceased. Oh, man.
Ooh, that is wild.
Now, I don't even think that their relationship would even be able to, survive something like that, for real. I don't think my relationship could survive something like that, but
I mean, it's gonna survive now because he actually became the nominee, or he got the job. But if he hadn't gotten the job, they were done. It was a wrap. It was over.
I think it would have been a wrap regardless for me.
But you were just now you're on the other side.
I was devil's advocate.
It's like, where's Waldo?
That would hurt my feelings. I don't like it. Nah, if I found out, if that was like legit, if I had found that out, it would have been done regardless. I don't think I would have been able to hang. I don't think my little fragile ego would be able to deal with it at all.
It hurts. It's gonna hurt, and we're gonna have an issue. We're gonna have a problem. But if everything that we've built after that, like if I can trust you implicitly, and this is a mistake that happened 20 years ago, whatever, and in that afterward, you've been 100, like you've been good. What am I? I'm letting you go for what? To get what? To do what? Right? We've done this together. And so as a, to have that kind of relationship, for them to be in love with the way that they are, like, you have to be able to go through these hard, lessons and situations together. I think that if she had ruined his career, though, he wouldn't have been able to forgive her for that. Right? Because you took away my options. You took away my right to choose. You took away my right to refuse. You decided how things were going to go, and that doesn't that doesn't work in a relationship. But the fact that he was still able to be who he wanted to be and live out his dream, that's why I feel like they're probably going to work through it.
The logic is sound.
But that's not logic, though. That's from more of an emotional place, because we've got this bond. We're tied together.
Well, no, it's logic from the perspective of, like, you did this thing, and this was the consequence of it, and I still got to the mountaintop based off of everything and the confluence of events and stuff like that, right? But if this is what you did, this is the consequences of it, and it's completely tanked my career, I feel like that's coming from a place of logic. Because like you said, if your feelings are going to be hurt regardless, as long as you get some type of positive from it, then it makes sense, right? Is what you're saying?
It's easier to deal with. It's not
Got
that
you. Okay.
easier to deal with. But if my career is ruined because of it, it's not so much what you did, it's the fact that your decision, it's the decision. Does the decision outcome? If the decision has a favorable outcome, then I can kind of get over it, because we have also in between 20 years of happiness, trust, bliss, all of the beautiful things, right?
Yeah, but all that trust and all that bliss is built on a lie, though.
It's still built though. It still exists.
Okay.
You can't refute it, because he's been living with this woman and in love with her, and you know what I'm saying, like blissfully unaware for 20 something years. Is his
Honestly,
ego,
that would make me feel even more foolish, because I'm sitting over here and you have all this information that you're keeping from me, and I'm not allowed to make, like you said, an educated decision based off of all of the facts, right?
right?
And so, and then the facts come out, and it's just kind of like, oh well, I either stay with you or I don't, which I guess it's very black and white. I know, but I don't. I think I'm just coming from it. I'm just coming at it from an emotional place. I don't think that I would be able to forgive, but I also understand that when love is involved, especially when your lives are so intertwined, you have kids, you have grandkids, all that other shit, like it's not the same type of decision. And I think that that's what's so fascinating about these types of situations too, is your mindset changes as you get older and as you go through life experiences and as you see other people go through life experiences
Right.
too. Because we've
So,
talked about it before, like when you see like elders and you see like all of these older grandparents and all these relationships, and you start finding out all of these like dirty little secrets that they kind of swept underneath the rug, then you're just like, oh, it couldn't be me, I couldn't do this. But at the same time, how would that have affected your life as a kid, as a grandchild, as a niece or a nephew or whatever? And so it's interesting how age and experiences can affect this. But anyway, sorry, you were saying.
no. That's a good point. Also because of his age, right? And the fact that he's a man. Like I feel like, he's a man. He's not having the same emotional response as we are. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
the
Oh.
decision has a favorable outcome,
Mm-hmm.
easier. Not that his ego's not going to be wrecked, not that they're not going to have their moments, not that it's not going to be a turbulent time, but if the outcome is favorable, it's easier for him to get over it. No one knows,
Mm-hmm.
right? Olivia made sure
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't a scandal. It doesn't come
Yeah.
out. So for him to leave her causes a scandal.
Mm-hmm.
Now it becomes a thing, because now it's like, what? Why are you leaving this woman that you've been in love with and so obviously happy with for the last however many years?
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely. Absolutely. That makes sense.
that's the whole like craziness of the show, is these situations, right? That it's like, what are we doing things based on morals? Are we doing things based on
Yeah.
whoa? What's more important? How many people does it affect?
Yeah. And I think that that's what's so interesting when you're watching it from the perspective of having seen it a few times, right? And you see how Quinn is just obsessed with seeing the good in every single situation. And she's not at the point yet where things have like corrupted her to see the gray. And I think I wrote that down. Yeah. Watching Quinn go gray in real time is going to be crazy. And so it's it's interesting to see her perspective on everything. And like, the more that you learn, the more you're just like, oh, it's interesting, because she's just kind of like the blank canvas of the show. And everything that's happening is affecting her in real time, sort of in the way that it's kind of affecting us as we're watching it. And then you have all these people with all these different perspectives, right? Because you had the boys club vibe when Huck, Steven, and Harrison were, you know, talking about like the stuff that was in there. And then when Harrison calls out Abby and tells her, like, sometimes men just want to have sex without thinking about all the other things that go into it. And that goes back to what you were saying a minute ago too. And so it's interesting to see how each of them is, where each of them is at on the spectrum of like what they're willing to do, and how they are how their moral compass is pointing them in any given direction at any time.
And also kind of learning, like on the job training, that moral compass, you've got to suspend it. It doesn't
absolutely
doesn't work here. Like, even, you know, Abby and her little judgmentalness, like I think Liv, because they're friends, she was a little bit softer on her.
Absolutely.
No, like that judgment doesn't work here.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
Have room for that. Like, but then I guess the more you get to know Abby and everything that she experiences, you understand kind of why she was that way. But annoying.
It doesn't excuse it, but you get an understanding of why her character is who she is. Absolutely. A couple of really good lines that I wrote down. Don't Clinton me with words. Boy, that was so good. I was like, I love you, Shonda. That was so good.
Oh, no, Ginger Bell.
Oh, yeah.
It's like her parents planned it. Like, they planned for her to be a hooker.
She's a fool. Why would she say that? Oh, my God.
Oh, no. And then the scene with the guard where Billy calls on the phone. He's like, answer that. Go ahead. Hey, this is Billy. That's totally something I would do. That's totally something I have done. I have called someone sitting in front of me and been like, pick it up.
You know, I will say we don't get enough of the security guard, because he's in a couple of I think he's only in the first season, if I remember right. But the fact that he was like, if you gave me donuts, I wonder what you give him. And I was like, oh.
Or I wonder what kind of cupcakes you gave him. That's
so good.
Homie, just eat your red velvet and let me in the gate. That's all you gotta do.
Absolutely. Also, you mentioned Billy. Billy, the actor who plays Billy, plays a villain in The Flash. And he's so annoyingly good at being bad that even just seeing him as Billy just makes me want to punch him in the face.
Can I say I feel the same way about the actress that plays Amanda Tanner?
Oh my God, yes.
I couldn't stand her in How to Get Away with Murder, and I can't.
Oh my God, Bonnie's the worst. Bonnie is my Abby. Like, Bonnie is absolutely the Abby of How to Get Away with Murder. No doubt.
Opens her mouth, I'm like,
ooh. But to be fair, that's kind of like the roles that she plays too, because when she was in Gilmore Girls, Paris Geller was the same way. Absolutely just wanted to like
yeah. Excited that this was a typecast that we wanted to see. I don't like it.
And then she just like, she's just, and you know, to be fair, she does have a reason to cry. I'm not going to say that she doesn't have a reason to cry, but girl, like,
okay,
you better buck up, Buttercup. Like, you got to pucky your bowl. We got stuff to do. Like, I don't like, there's no crying in baseball. I don't know what to tell you. Like, you decided to sleep with him. Now we got to deal with the consequences.
And I mean, she slept with him after we've already lived through
Monica Lewinsky. Yep.
Monica Lewinsky situation, right? So, ma'am, baby girl, sweet baby, did you really think that the president of the States was leaving his wife to be with you? Did you really think that? That's what you thought?
And like, if I'm gonna do dirt, I'm not gonna leave evidence behind. Like, I'm not gonna take a dog from this man. I'm not gonna, sit here.
And I'm gonna be happy every morning walking my dog and living my life. I'm not gonna be sitting here like, you call me sweet baby. Nobody fucking cares. Who cares? Why do you think that meant, like, nothing that happens in this situation means anything? And it's like, I've been young, right? Everybody's like, oh, well, when you're young. No, I've been young. I feel like that's even more of a time where you're just like, yeah, whatever. We're just doing this. Why would you think that he's going to blow up his whole entire situation to be with you? I don't care what he called you.
It's just the delusion. It's the delusion that men like that are capable of feeling emotion instead of masking it. And we've definitely talked about this before, right? And I wouldn't even say masking it, honestly. They're saying all the words and you're reading into them because you want them to be true.
He bought a dog.
And it's so fascinating because as a woman of a certain age, I've had, many experiences with men.
Hello.
And boy, I've had many experiences with men.
Oh yeah.
They be fucking playing games. They'll smile in your face and say all the words to you and just let you sit here and just like make this little masterpiece of a cake. And you're just like, oh, look at the cake that we made. And he's over there eating fucking French fries. That man don't care about the cake.
Man,
He don't care about you.
He don't care about nothing. He
invited you to meet his mama. You met his daddy. He was banging you 6 ways to Sunday, and he didn't give a goddamn. He just wanted some coochie. But if you don't realize that that's some men's modus operandi, then they just be playing you.
It's not even that's the worst part. It's not even just the coochie. They want the experience. They want them, right? Because they know if it's not that women don't like to have sex and you can't have a woman that's going to have sex with you without any strings attached. But those strings not being attached means you don't get loved on, you don't get cooked for, right? You don't get back rubs. I don't listen to you and tell me how your day was. But they want all that.
Yeah.
All that until they don't, right? They want it from you until they find the person that they really want it from. And willing to do and say whatever, give you a dog, call you sweet baby, to get you until they don't want it anymore. So if
I saw some shit on Instagram that actually encompasses this really well. She said he wants everything from you, but he doesn't like you because you're not the person he wants it from.
He doesn't want it from you. He'll
take it though.
Get it from the person that he wants it from.
He'll bleed you fucking dry in the process too. And you just sitting over there just giving it all away. Lord.
That's a whole nother podcast, girl. Yeah, so I was like, Amanda Tanner gets on my nerves.
Absolutely. Speaking of Amanda Tanner, we got a little bit of the mouth acting in this episode. I was fucking for it.
A little bit of the what?
The mouth acting. When Olivia was outside of Amanda Tanner's door and she was doing the mouth acting Olivia face, trying to convince her that she was sorry and that she could help. And I was just like, look at that mouth go. That mouth deserves an Emmy. It really does. It really does.
Yeah, she's something else. She's swell. No, the scene where she was talking to Stacy and Fitz was outside watching her through the glass. I was like, was that what we were to intimate, that he was reading it and understood what she said, and then that's why he was able to make his speech at the end?
I think they were just talking loud enough that they could hear.
No, he was with a group of people. She was inside. He was looking at her through the window. He couldn't hear.
Oh, you're talking about when she was telling Stacy to tell her husband. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought you were saying the very end when they were together. Anyways,
No, I said that's why he was able. Like, was he reading her lips? And that's why he knew what to say to her at the end, because whatever advice she gave Stacy about how to handle the husband applied to their situation. So then he and used it back on her at the end at the window. Right? Whatever advice she gave her, that's what he basically said to live. Like, sometimes people, when they make mistakes, blah, 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 rah, rah, rah. It was just in Fitz speak.
I wonder. I think it was a coinky dink. Oh, go ahead.
He's watching her, and then when she says the last line, he kind of just,
Oh, see, I didn't even put that together. I knew he was watching her through the glass, but I thought it was just the typical, like, Fitz, I'm going to stare at her because I just want to stare at her. Because he always staring at her. She's always staring at him from across the distance.
Yeah, no, because when he did that, I was like, did he just read her lips? He understood what she was saying?
Huh. Interesting. I gotta go back and rewatch that because that's curious.
Yeah.
I just thought that he was just doing everything that he could and throwing it all at the wall to get her to take him seriously.
We know him better than that. That man uses everything in his power. He is manipulative. So yeah, nigga is like, I'll read your lips.
For real. For real. I'll show up at your house. I'll be in that motherfucker when you open. Bill Clinton used to sneak out for hamburgers. Fitz used to sneak out for pussy.
I'm sure Bill snuck out for plenty of pussy. Trust me.
Probably a burger and pussy at the same time.
And cigars. and et cetera, et cetera.
Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, do not touch her.
Oh yeah, Huck is a trip, baby. And I think it's interesting because he doesn't have that kind of relationship with David. Does he ever? I think he gets a cordial relationship with David later on, but they just don't know each other very well. But like that was the little glimpse that we needed into that dark side. Because baby Huck,
because David sure stopped.
Sure did. But David also, he has a very begrudging respect for Olivia. Even when all hell is breaking loose through, all the chaos that happens in this series, I don't think he ever doesn't have respect for Olivia.
No, I feel like he has more than he genuinely likes her. I think he genuinely appreciates her intellect and her power, to be honest. I think, you do find out that he's kind of jealous of it, right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So, and then of course, we can't overlook the dynamic of her race. And, she is a beautiful woman. And so that's, that kind of unicorn in that, realm of society is just like, wow, he's probably very enamored with her.
Absolutely. And I think part of it too is that he's doing everything that he can to up his profile so that when it comes time to run for something, he has that capability and he has that name recognition. And he recognizes that she's smart enough to understand that and to call him on it too.
And I think once you understand what she does, I feel like even though they're on opposite sides, he recognizes how important she is, right? Basically, you need that balance. It can't
Absolutely.
all him, because everything would crumble, right? Everything that
Mm-hmm.
they did, everything that he was working hard for and being on that side of the law for, if there wasn't someone like her working on the other side of the law, right? What you were working so hard for wouldn't even exist.
Exactly. To me, that's part of the fun of like watching any type of, these lawyer shows or, where people are in this like battle of wills, right? Is it has to be evenly matched, because if it's not, then it's just boring. It's not good TV. There's no tension. And I think that that's why I really enjoy Shonda's writing, because every conversation, every character interaction, she has this brilliant way of kind of like throwing in this glorious tension that just kind of draws out that dynamic a little bit more, and it's fucking fantastic to watch.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Right? The witty banter, Harrison, I feel like he's underrated as far as the, I don't want to call it comic relief, but it kind of is comic relief that he brings.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Because he does it with a straight face. He's laughing, but there's certain things that he says, and I'm like,
absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely. Harrison is, I feel like they each have their own like specific foil that they bring to Olivia. Harrison is like the loyal, ask no questions. I don't want to say lapdog, because I don't think that that's a fair
he's like
assessment. But he's like the loyal golden retriever. I'll say it that way. Right? Like he'll do whatever you need to do, and he's just like a loyal soldier. Abby is kind of like the black sheep that kind of got dragged in because of her life circumstances. Steven is absolutely her confidant, right? He knows everything. Even if she hasn't explicitly told him about some stuff, he's gleaned it because he knows her so well. And then you have Huck, who was her ride or die, like, I will do whatever you need me to do, like, bury bodies, dissolve, fingers, whatever it is, right? Like he'll do that for you because he feels like he owes you his life. And we, find out more about why that is later, and like his training and all that stuff. But, they each have their own specific purpose. And I think that that's why it also creates this like air of mystery and this tension, because you have Quinn, and Quinn doesn't make any sense because there was no reason for them to bring her on.
Yes, she does. She does make sense because you need that balance. Sharks, they're all like, they need her to come in and balance out and have that conscience, even if they don't listen to her every time, even if they don't do things the way she thinks they should be done. But she brings in that balance, because everyone can't be on, this side. You need something, and she's so naive, right? And she's so that she brings that freshness and that, perspective that they may not all have because they're all kind of jaded in some way.
Yeah. And then if you think about it too, in addition to what you just said, based on the assessment that we just did that I just did of the crew as a whole, who would have been the one to go and actually sit there with Amanda Tanner and have these conversations and be vulnerable with her? Because the only person that it possibly could have been would be Abby. But Abby's moral compass is so straight and so narrow that the idea of this chick sleeping with the president would have set that girl off, and she wouldn't have been able to have a conversation with.
It would have been like, she deserves whatever she gets.
Exactly.
Passion. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's definitely fun stuff. I think and we can't forget about the madam's line to the men in the room. She said, "Twice in one night if you take your pills." I was like, damn. Just telling everybody that man's business. He shouldn't sit down and say, "All right, you're right.
Got it.
Whatever you say, man."
You like to go around the Oh man.
Yeah.
I know I had to stop myself from watching the next episode. I'm like, not yet.
I did too. Oh. The first thing that I have on here. We got to talk about it every time. The soundtrack. The soundtrack is always a character in and of itself on Scandal because, baby, it always sets the mood every single time. It's just like, what song we opening with today, baby? Let's go.
I feel like that's really what, not the only thing, but that's really a major tether for me in this show. Every time I hear Stevie Wonder, I'm like,
yes. I can't even listen to well, we'll talk about that we'll talk about that way later because that's what season 4, season 5. What's it? Songs in A minor when she puts the vinyl on.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
You know what song I can't listen. Sunny.
Oh my God! Yes. Every time I hear it, I'm just like on an island. Oh. Or
for Jam. Gave it up for Jam. That's what we did. Jam.
It probably doesn't even taste that good.
It doesn't. I promise you.
Keep it up for some funky jam. Our true colors are showing. We're only talking about Alex right now.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I think that was all I had. Boys Club, Alex, Fitz. Ugh. Fitz, sad face, as usual. David and Olivia don't get enough love. Yeah.
Fitz in the face he makes when she turns him down. That's sad face Fitz.
Not sad face Fitz. It's true though. It's true. Ugh. Abby always gets just like the face, and then Fitz always gets the in my notes every time. But I'm very excited for the next one because now we're gonna really get into it.
Yep. So, all right, I feel like we're getting there, right? We're getting there. Yeah. All right, so I guess that's all we got for this week.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you would like to watch along with us and comment your reactions and any quotes or anything that you noticed that maybe we didn't talk about, just let us know.
Absolutely. And don't miss out on an episode, so please subscribe. And share it with your friends. Share it with your friends that like Scandal too.
Like that.
Bye.